Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, heart pounding, knowing one step could change everything. That's me, Akina Miller, 30 years old, in a penthouse crowning Manhattan's skyline, surrounded by the glitterati of New York. Tech moguls, fashion icons, even a Grammy-winning singer sipping a martini. It's my father's 60th birthday, William Bill Miller, the tech titan whose name is synonymous with Miller Tech, an empire that powers half the world's smartphones. The room pulses with a live jazz band, crystal chandeliers casting rainbows, and the scent of truffle hors d'oeuvres. I'm in a Saint Laurent jumpsuit that cost a month's rent, holding a velvet box with a $200,000 Rolex Daytona inside. A desperate bid to make Bill see me as more than a disappointment. But tucked in my clutch, there's a USB drive, small enough to fit in my palm, loaded with a secret that could shatter this family like glass. Have you ever carried a truth so heavy it felt like it could crush you? A truth you wanted to scream but were terrified to whisper? Tonight, I'm done hiding. That USB holds proof that Bill isn't my father, and I'm ready to let it all burn. Stay with me, because this isn't just about a party gone wrong, it's about finding out who you are when the people you love don't. By the end, you might ask yourself, who's your real family? What's your truth worth fighting for? I grew up in Silicon Valley, in a mansion that felt like it belonged in a sci-fi novel. Smart mirrors adjusted lighting to your mood, AI assistants ordered groceries before you knew you were out, and doors unlocked with a retina scan. It was futuristic, but it was cold, more like a showcase for Miller Tech's innovations than a home. Bill Miller wasn't just my dad, he was a god in the tech world, the visionary who turned a dorm room coding project into a billion-dollar empire. He was magnetic, with a presence that demanded attention, but at home, he was a judge, his expectations a constant weight. My brother Logan, 2 years younger, was his protege, coding apps at 12, debugging Miller Tech's software by 16, the heir destined to wear his crown. My little sister Mia, 5 years my junior, was his angel, her charity work earning his rare, warm smiles. Me? I was the dreamer, the one Bill called unfocused, a word that cut like a blade every time he said it. I was 10 when I built my first coding project, a pixelated game about an astronaut exploring alien planets. I stayed up past midnight for weeks, my desk littered with energy drink cans and scribbled notes. I was so proud, my hands trembling as I showed it to Bill in his home office, its walls lined with patents and framed wired covers. He barely glanced at it. "Logan's building better at your age," he said, waving me off. I stood there, my pride deflating like a punctured balloon. That moment set the tone for my childhood, every achievement measured against Logan, every effort dismissed. I started to wonder if I was flawed, if I'd ever be enough to belong in this family. Mom, Evelyn, was my soft place to land. A former journalist with a knack for storytelling, she had a laugh that could melt tension and eyes that saw through my bravado. On tough days, she'd pull me into the kitchen, away from Bill's critiques, and we'd bake chocolate chip cookies, the smell of vanilla wrapping us in warmth. "You're enough, Akina," she'd whisper, her hands guiding mine as we shaped dough. But she never stood up to Bill, never challenged his coldness. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling, wondering why she stayed silent. Her love was real, but it wasn't enough to fill the void Bill left. High school was my rebellion. I threw myself into everything, coding clubs, debate teams, math Olympiads, determined to prove I wasn't unfocused. At 15, I led my school's robotics team to a state championship, our robot navigating a maze with precision. I brought the trophy home, its gold surface gleaming, thinking this would be the moment Bill saw me. He glanced at it and said, "Not bad. But Logan's interning at Google next summer." I smiled, hiding the sting, but inside, I was screaming. Why was nothing I did ever enough? I started pushing harder, staying up until dawn to perfect my projects, chasing a nod of approval that never came. There was one moment, though, that gave me hope. At 16, I won a national hackathon with an app for disaster relief, connecting survivors with resources in real time. The auditorium erupted in applause, and I felt invincible. I rushed home, trophy in hand, and found Bill in the living room, watching a Miller Tech keynote. "Dad, we won." I said, holding up the trophy. He looked at it, then at me, and for a second, I thought I saw a flicker of pride. Good, he said, then turned back to the screen. But don't get cocky. One win doesn't make a legacy. I nodded, swallowing my disappointment, but that flicker kept me going, a tiny spark I clung to. College was my escape. I got into MIT, scraping by on scholarships and late-night barista shifts at a Cambridge cafe to cover what loans didn't. I studied AI, fascinated by its potential to understand human emotions, to help people feel seen. My thesis on neural networks for mental health diagnostics won awards, catching the eye of tech recruiters. I graduated top of my class, my future wide open. But instead of joining Miller Tech like Logan, I started NeuralSpark, my own AI startup focused on mental health. It was a gamble, long hours, maxed out credit cards, a tiny office with leaky pipes, but it was mine. By 28, NeuralSpark was valued at $50 million, and I landed on Forbes 30 Under 30. The headline read, Akina Miller, the future of AI. I framed it, my hands trembling with pride, and showed it to Bill at a family dinner in our Silicon Valley dining room, its glass table reflecting the chandelier above. He skimmed it, snorted, and said, Forbes loves a sob story. Don't let it go to your head. I felt like I'd been slapped. I'd built something incredible, something that was saving lives, but it still wasn't enough. I excused myself, drove back to my apartment, and cried, the framed article propped against my wall. That night, I decided to do something drastic. I'd buy Bill a gift so undeniable, so extravagant, he'd have to see me. That's when the Rolex idea was born. It was absurd, spending $200,000 on a watch to win my dad's love. But I was desperate, clinging to the hope that a grand gesture would crack his armor. I spent weeks researching, visiting jewelers in San Francisco, finally choosing the Daytona for its platinum elegance and intricate craftsmanship. I pictured him wearing it at board meetings, telling colleagues, my daughter got me this. I imagined his smile, the one he gave Logan so freely. It was a fantasy, but it kept me going through sleepless nights and endless NeuralSpark deadlines. Then came the revelation that changed everything. My team at NeuralSpark did an Ancestry.com test as a team-building exercise, a silly way to bond over our roots. I didn't think twice about it, just swabbed my cheek and sent it off. The results hit my inbox on a Tuesday morning, and my world stopped, no genetic match to Bill Miller. My heart raced. It had to be a mistake. I ordered another test, then a third, each one confirming the impossible. I started digging, my mind a blur of panic and curiosity. One Sunday, at a family brunch, I slipped a coffee cup Bill had used into a Ziploc bag, my hands shaking as I hid it in my purse. I sent it to a private lab, and the results arrived on a USB drive, stark and undeniable. Bill was not my biological father. It was like the ground vanished beneath me. Every cold glance, every dismissal, clicked into place. I wasn't his daughter, and maybe that's why I was never enough. But a darker question haunted me, did he know? Had he been punishing me for a secret I didn't choose? I stopped sleeping, my mind replaying decades of rejection, every unfocused, every Logan's better. The USB became my anchor, proof that I wasn't imagining his distance. I decided to bring it to Bill's birthday, not sure if I'd use it, but needing its weight in my clutch, a reminder that I held the truth. The night of Bill's 60th was like stepping into a movie set. The penthouse was a masterpiece, marble floors gleaming under shifting LED lights that pulsed from sapphire to gold, floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan's twinkling skyline. A jazz band played Miles Davis, their saxophone notes weaving through the chatter of guests in bespoke suits and sequined gowns. Waiters glided with trays of caviar blinis, truffle-dusted sliders, and flutes of vintage Dom Perignon, the air thick with perfume and ambition. I felt like an imposter, my Saint Laurent jumpsuit a costume hiding a girl who just wanted her dad to love her. I adjusted my earrings, took a deep breath, and stepped into the crowd, my clutch heavy with the Rolex and the USB. Before the party, I asked Bill to meet me in his office, a sleek space with a wall of screens streaming Miller Tech stock ticker and global news feeds. My hands were clammy as I handed him the Rolex box, its velvet soft under my fingers. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said, my voice tight with hope. He opened it, tilted his head, and said, flashy, "What's this about, Akina? Trying to buy your way into my good graces?" I forced a laugh, but my chest ached. I'd poured my heart into this, spent a fortune, and he saw it as a transaction. "Just wanted to celebrate you," I mumbled, my smile faltering. He nodded, set the box aside, and turned back to his screens. I left, my hope crumbling like ash. Back at the party, I lingered by the windows, the city's pulse steadying my nerves. Manhattan sprawled below, a mosaic of light and shadow, its energy both thrilling and overwhelming. My clutch felt like it was burning a hole in my hand, the USB inside a live wire. Mia, radiant in a pale pink dress that caught the light, slipped beside me. "You okay, Kina?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. She was 25, still figuring out her place, but her kindness was a constant. "Just nervous," I said, forcing a smile. She squeezed my arm. "You're amazing, you know that?" Her words were a lifeline, but they couldn't quiet the storm in my head. Should I confront him? Keep the secret? I was still wrestling with it when Bill took the stage for his speech, a champagne flute in hand, his tailored suit catching the light. His voice boomed, commanding the room like a conductor. He thanked Logan for redefining AI at Miller Tech, his new project a game-changer poised to shape the future. He called Mia our family's conscience, her work with homeless youth a beacon of hope. The crowd clapped, charmed by his charisma, their applause echoing off the marble walls. Then his gaze landed on me, and my breath caught. His smile turned sharp, almost cruel. "Not everyone's built for greatness," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Some chase fame, burn bright for a moment, then fade. The Miller name demands more." The room went silent, the jazz band's notes hanging in the air like a held breath. Guests shifted, their whispers like static, their eyes darting to me. Evelyn stared at her plate, her face ashen, her hands clenched in her lap. Logan's lips curled into a smug grin, his posture relaxed, as if he'd been waiting for this. Mia gripped my wrist under the table, whispering, "Don't listen to him, Kina." But something inside me snapped. 30 years of being invisible, of swallowing his insults, of shrinking to fit his narrow vision of me, boiled over. I wasn't his punching bag anymore. I stood, my heels clicking on the marble, the sound slicing through the tension like a knife. The band stopped, the saxophonist lowering his instrument. Every eye was on me, the air thick with anticipation. "Enough," I said, my voice trembling but clear, echoing in the vast room. "I built Neural Spark from nothing. My AI is saving lives, earning Forbes covers, leading an industry. I'm not a failure, Bill." The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath, as I pulled the USB from my clutch. It was small, black, unremarkable, but it held my truth. I tossed it onto the glass dining table, where it skidded to a stop, glinting under the chandelier. "And I'm not your daughter. That USB proves it. That's why you've never loved me. But I'm done begging for it." The room erupted, murmurs, gasps, a glass shattering on the floor somewhere. Bill's face went crimson, his eyes blazing with fury. Evelyn stood, her chair scraping, her hands shaking as she reached for the table. Logan leaned forward, his glare cutting through me. Mia's eyes welled with tears, her hand still on my wrist. I didn't wait for their reactions. I turned, my jumpsuit swishing, and walked to the elevator, my steps steady despite the chaos behind me. The doors slid open, and I stepped inside, the cool metal calming my racing heart. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Bill grabbing the USB, his hands trembling with rage. I rode the elevator to the garage, the silence deafening after the party's roar. The Rolls-Royce Ghost I'd reserved for Bill sat waiting, its black curves gleaming under fluorescent lights. I slid into the driver's seat, the leather cool against my skin, and started the engine. It roared to life, a deep, powerful hum that matched the fire in my chest. I peeled out into Manhattan's neon jungle, the city's lights blurring as I drove, my hands trembling but my mind clear. For the first time in my life, I felt free, like I'd broken out of a cage I hadn't known I was in. By morning, the internet was ablaze. Someone, a guest, a waiter, I'll never know, had recorded my exit, and hashtag Miller Family Meltdown was trending on X, racking up millions of views in hours. Clips of me tossing the USB spread like wildfire, sparking debates about family secrets, tech dynasties, and betrayal. My inbox overflowed with messages, startup founders calling me a trailblazer, trolls accusing me of airing dirty laundry, and strangers sharing their own stories of rejection. I scrolled through X, stunned by the support from women in tech, their words like armor, "You spoke for all of us. Thank you for being brave." I turned off my phone, needing space to process, the weight of the night pressing on me. Mia texted me at dawn, her words frantic. Bill opened the USB in front of everyone. "He's losing it," screaming at Mom. "Please tell me you're okay." She said he'd read the results aloud, his voice cracking as he realized the truth, then turned on Evelyn, demanding answers. Evelyn fled to their bedroom, locking the door, refusing to speak. "Logan sent me a venomous email, 'You've destroyed our family. Expect a lawsuit over that car. You're no Miller.'" His words stung, cutting deeper than I expected, but Mia's call was a lifeline. Her voice trembled over the phone. "I don't care about the test, Kina. You're my sister. Please don't shut me out." I promised to meet her soon, her love a tether in the chaos. I agreed to meet Evelyn 3 days later at a Brooklyn cafe, a cozy spot with exposed brick walls, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, and the rich smell of fresh espresso. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, the cafe half empty, the hum of indie music softening the edges of my nerves. Evelyn looked like she'd aged a decade, her eyes red and puffy, her usual poise replaced by fragility. She wore a simple sweater, her hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea. We sat by a window, the Brooklyn street outside bustling with dog walkers and delivery bikes, a stark contrast to the tension between us. She spoke first, her voice low, halting. "I owe you the truth, Akina." She told me about Lucas Reed, my real father. They'd met at Berkeley in the late 80s, two computer science majors coding late into the night in a campus lab, dreaming of a startup that would change the world. She loved him, his quiet humor, his stubborn optimism, but her parents saw him as a nobody, a dreamer with no pedigree. When she got pregnant, they gave her an ultimatum: leave Lucas or lose their support. Bill Miller, a rising star in tech, offered her stability, promising to raise me as his own. "I thought I was protecting you," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought a life with Bill would give you everything I couldn't. But I failed you, Akina. I let him hurt you, and I'm so sorry." I wanted to be angry, to scream at her for choosing Bill's world over me, for letting me grow up in his shadow. But I saw her pain, the weight of decades of silence, the guilt etched into her face. "I needed you to fight for me," I said, my voice breaking. "I needed you to see how much he was breaking me." She nodded, sobbing, and reached for my hand. I let her take it, our fingers intertwining, tears falling onto the table. "Can we start again?" she whispered. I didn't have an answer, but I squeezed her hand, the space between us raw but honest. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a bridge we could cross together. I found Lucas through a TechCrunch profile, published just weeks before. His photo showed a man with my cheekbones, a thoughtful smile, and graying hair. He was a startup founder in Seattle, building apps for environmental monitoring, his work focused on saving endangered ecosystems. I sat at my desk, staring at his face, wondering what parts of me came from him. I emailed him, my fingers trembling as I typed, "I'm Akina Miller. I think I'm your daughter." I hit send, my heart pounding, and waited. He replied within hours, his words careful but warm. I had no idea. "I'm in shock, but I want to know you. Can we meet?" We set a date in New York, and I felt a spark of hope, like a door opening after years of being locked. The fallout kept coming, relentless as a tide. Logan's lawyers sent a letter demanding the Rolls-Royce, claiming I'd stolen it from Miller Tech's corporate account. Bill issued a press release calling the party a private misunderstanding, but the damage was done. Miller Tech stock dipped 3.2%, and tabloids ran headlines like Tech King's Secret Daughter and Miller Dynasty in Crisis. I ignored the noise, focusing on Neural Spark. My team rallied around me, working late to keep our projects on track. I got emails from women in tech, their stories mirroring mine, fathers who didn't see them, families who demanded perfection. One wrote, "Your courage gave me mine. I'm leaving my toxic job because of you." Their words were a reminder of why I'd started Neural Spark, not for Bill, but for something bigger, something that mattered. I also faced backlash. A tech blog published a hit piece, calling me a spoiled heiress throwing a tantrum. Anonymous accounts on X accused me of fabricating the DNA test for attention. I tried to brush it off, but it hurt, especially when I saw Logan retweeting the worst ones. Mia called me that night, furious. "They don't know you, Kina. You're stronger than this." Her belief in me was a shield, helping me focus on what was real, my work, my truth, the people who saw me. 3 months later, I was finding my footing, piece by piece. I'd moved to a loft in Williamsburg, a sunlit space with exposed brick walls, big windows overlooking the East River, and a rooftop garden where I'd sip coffee at sunrise. It was mine, plants spilling over shelves, a turntable spinning Nina Simone, a desk cluttered with Neural Spark prototypes and dog-eared books on AI ethics. I decorated it slowly, choosing pieces that felt like me, a vintage rug from a Brooklyn flea market, a painting by a local artist, a photo of me and Mia at her high school graduation. It was the first place I'd ever felt truly at home. I started coaching sessions in San Francisco with a woman named Dr. Lena, a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. She was warm but direct, her office filled with succulents and a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. She'd ask, "What does Akina want?" and I'd sit there, silent, realizing I'd spent my life chasing Bill's approval instead of my own dreams. Slowly, I found answers. I wanted to create AI that helped people feel seen, to build a community where no one felt invisible, to live without proving anything to anyone. Dr. Lena helped me see that my worth wasn't tied to Bill's opinion, or Logan's, or even the world's. It was mine to define. Christmas was approaching, and I decided to host a dinner at my loft, a chance to gather the people who mattered. I invited Mia, Evelyn, and a few Neural Spark friends, my chosen family. Bill declined when he heard I'd be there, his absence a quiet relief, like a storm passing. I spent days planning, stringing fairy lights across the ceiling, baking pecan pie from Evelyn's old recipe, curating a playlist of jazz, soul, and a touch of Motown. I bought a small Christmas tree, its branches heavy with mismatched ornaments, and set the table with mismatched plates I'd collected from thrift shops. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The night was magic, the loft glowing with warmth despite the December chill. Mia arrived with her famous hot cocoa, topped with whipped cream and cinnamon, and we laughed as she spilled some on her sweater. My friend Tara, Neural Spark's lead engineer, told stories about our early days, when we coded in a basement office with a broken heater. Evelyn was quieter, her hands fidgeting with her napkin, but she smiled at our banter, her presence steady. We feasted on roast turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, and green beans, the table groaning under the weight of it all. After dinner, we played charades, Mia's dramatic impression of Elvis leaving us in stitches. It felt like home, the kind I'd always wanted but never had growing up. As we cleared plates, Evelyn pulled me aside, her eyes shining under the fairy lights. "Akina," she said, her voice soft, "I'm proud of you, not for your startup, but for your heart. You're stronger than I ever was, and I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." I hugged her, tears falling, the words sinking deep. It was the validation I'd craved my whole life, but now it felt different, real, unforced, a gift rather than a necessity. I didn't need it to feel whole, but it healed a wound I'd carried too long. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered, and for the first time in years, I meant it. I met Lucas at a tech conference in Seattle, a sprawling event with drones buzzing overhead, VR demos flashing, and booths showcasing the latest in AI. He was taller than I'd imagined, his hair graying at the temples, his smile hesitant but warm. We met at a cafe overlooking Puget Sound, the water shimmering under a cloudy sky. Over coffee, he told me about his life, building apps to monitor deforestation, hiking the Pacific Northwest, adopting a scruffy mutt named Pixel who chewed his sneakers. He spoke of Evelyn with a quiet fondness, saying he'd always wondered what happened to her. "I see her in you," he said, his eyes crinkling. "Your curiosity, your fire. And I see me in your drive." We talked for hours, about code, dreams, the years we'd missed. He showed me a photo of Pixel, a shaggy dog with a lopsided grin, and I laughed, feeling a connection I hadn't expected. I told him about Neural Spark, my hackathon days, the highs and lows of startup life. He listened, really listened, his questions thoughtful, his pride genuine. It wasn't instant family, but it was a beginning. We started video calling weekly, swapping stories, sharing playlists. He loved classic rock, I leaned toward jazz. "One call," he said, "I wish I'd known you sooner, Akina. But I'm here now." Those words settled into me, a promise I was starting to believe. The Rolex sat in a drawer, a relic of the old me, its platinum face a reminder of a time when I thought I could buy love. One day, I took it to an auction house in Manhattan, the auctioneer's eyes widening as he examined it. It sold for $220,000, more than I'd paid. With the money, I launched Akina's Innovators, a mentorship program for women in tech. We offered scholarships, coding boot camps, and one-on-one coaching, pairing young women with industry leaders. Our first event, a hackathon in San Francisco, drew 200 participants, their energy electric. Forbes ran a feature, calling it a revolution in STEM. I didn't frame it, I was too busy meeting ments, hearing their dreams. One girl, a 19-year-old coder from Oakland named Jada, told me, "You make me believe I can do this." Her words hit me harder than any headline, a reminder that my work had purpose beyond Bill's approval. I started speaking at tech events, sharing my story, not the drama, but the lessons. At a Women in Tech Summit in Austin, I stood on a stage under bright lights, 500 faces looking up at me. "Your worth isn't tied to someone else's approval," I said. "Build your own table, and invite the people who see you." The applause was deafening, but the real reward was the emails I got afterward, women saying my words gave them courage to leave toxic jobs, start their own companies, or confront their own bills. I realized I wasn't just healing myself, I was helping others heal too. The drama didn't vanish overnight. Logan's lawsuit over the Rolls-Royce dragged on, his lawyers sending threatening letters I forwarded to my attorney. Bill stayed silent, his absence louder than any words. But Mia and Evelyn grew closer, their support unwavering. Mia started volunteering at Akina's Innovators, mentoring high school girls with a passion that lit up the room. Evelyn began writing again, working on a memoir about her Berkeley days, her words a way to reclaim her voice. I read her drafts, seeing her strength in new ways, our bond deepening with every page. Looking back, I see how far I've come. A year ago, I was chasing Bill's shadow, measuring my worth by his fleeting glances. Now, I'm building a life that's mine, surrounded by people who see me, flaws and all. Bill and Logan are still out there, guarding their empire, but they don't define me. Mia, Evelyn, Lucas, my NeuroSpark team, my ments, they're my family, the ones who show up, who love me not for what I do but for who I am. Family isn't about blood or a last name. It's about connection, respect, the people who stay when the world gets heavy. I think about the girl I was, the one who built that pixelated game, who framed that Forbes cover, who bought that Rolex hoping for love. I want to hug her, tell her, "You're enough. You always were. You don't need to prove it to anyone. I'm telling you this because I know I'm not alone." Maybe you felt invisible, like you're not enough for the people you love. Maybe you're still fighting for a nod of approval that never comes. Or maybe you found your true family in unexpected places, friends, mentors, colleagues, even strangers who get you. Whoever you are enough. Your worth isn't tied to anyone's opinion. Find your people, the ones who light up when you walk in. Build a life that feels like yours, brick by brick, dream by dream. If you've got a story about standing up, breaking free, finding your home, or reclaiming your truth, share it. Drop it in the comments, send me a message, start a conversation on X. Let's build a community of dreamers, of fighters, of people who know their value and lift each other up. Because no one gets to define you, not your family, not your critics, not the world. You do. I'm Akina Miller, and this is my story. What's yours?